My mom has always been able to see ghosts and spirits. She's had many different experiences, both good and bad. This has always made me a firm believer in ghosts. I can't see ghosts, though. I've always had a very good sense of what many people would consider vibes and such, whether it be from a person or from just being in a house. One day, a few months after I was born and had finally been placed into a different room than my parents, my mom got up in the middle of the night to get some water. She didn't know exactly why she woke up so suddenly, but pushed it off as not a big deal as she wandered into the kitchen. When she got into the kitchen and had her glass of water, she saw something in the corner of her eye, a sort of figure, and it was walking into my room. My mother, of course, decided to follow this said figure. She didn't know whether she had just been imagining it or not, but she wasn't going to risk it. When she was walking to my room, she could hear giggling coming from inside. Once she gets into my room, she notices the figure standing next to my crib with a smile. It was an old man wearing large glasses. The man notices my mom in the doorway and nods slightly before walking out of the door of my crib without a sound. My mom stands there for a second before making sure I was all right. I was. In fact, I was smiling myself. She then walked out of my room and headed back to bed, not mentioning any of this to my dad, who was asleep. A few weeks later, my mom and dad were going through some old photos of my dad's family. While looking through the photos, my mother notices a picture of an old man with large glasses. She immediately recognizes the man as the man who was in my room. She asks my dad who the man was, and he explained it was his grandfather who had passed away years before he had even met my mom. My dad and his grandfather were very close, and my grandfather's death had a huge impact on my dad. My mother told my dad about how she had seen his grandfather in my room that night she got up for water. This honestly has to be one of my favorite stories my mom told me about, because it made me know that even though I never met my great-grandfather when he was alive, he still cared and wanted to meet me. When I was 8 female and my brother was 9, we moved with my mom to a very small town after my parents split up. The new house was 2 stories with 3 bedrooms and a den. There was a large bedroom on the main floor with a full bathroom and a small den at the front of the house. The master was upstairs, along with another room that was entirely purple, paint, carpet, drapes. So my brother immediately claimed the big room on the main floor with the bathroom, and I was stuck in the purple nightmare. When we were moving in, we noticed a lock on the door to my brother's room, but it was odd because it locked from the outside with a key. We eventually found the key in the cellar. My mom just brushed it off. The room also only had one window, close to the ceiling, that was long but not wide and didn't open. So it let in light, but you couldn't really see out unless you stood on something. The other 2 bedrooms both had regular locks on the doors that locked from the inside. There was an attic at the top of the stairs that also had a lock on the outside, so we didn't think too much of it. We all went to bed that first night, and I don't remember anything too off myself, just new house strangeness. My brother, the next morning, said the light in his bathroom was flickering, water was running, toilet flushing, and he was a bit freaked out. My mom checked the room, and everything seemed fine in the daylight. He decided to stick it out. We explored the house that day, found the key to the door, and odd leftovers from previous people in the cellar and attic. The attic was right beside my room, and I was a bit spooked by it, but I'm sure that was just me being 8. The next night, after we all went to bed, I woke up to my brother screaming at the top of his voice, "Mom, help me! Please stop! Help!" from downstairs. I got there first because my room was closest, but my mom was right behind me. He was in his bed thrashing and looked like he was basically having a fit. When I got closer to his bed, he literally jumped out of it crying and stared at his bed. He said he felt something on his chest, holding him down, and what felt like thumbs being pressed into his eyes, and a voice whispering, "Die out, die out, die out," in his ear. We couldn't see anything in the room, but my brother was adamant that he was not going to stay in there. My mom was trying to cheer him up and said he could sleep in her room. My brother and I were halfway up the stairs, which were across from the room, and he asked her to please shut the door. I had never seen him so spooked. She laughed and said okay and went back to close the door, and even made a joke about being able to lock the door now, and did just that. As she started up the stairs towards us, we heard a loud knocking on the door coming from the inside. Needless to say, my brother and I screamed bloody murder and ran for my mom's bedroom, with her close behind. He moved into the small den the next day. He just couldn't sleep in there, so we turned it into a rec room and had our couch and TV in there instead. We never slept in that room, but anyone that came to stay with us said that they would be woken by activity in the bathroom or catch glimpses of something, but no one ever felt what my brother did, thankfully. We only lived there for about 1.5 years. It's been 30 years now, and I've always wondered who or what was kept locked in that room, and why. This isn't my story, but my dad's, but I feel it is worthwhile telling it here. My dad was a builder, contracted to the local council to carry out works on council buildings. In the UK, this also includes homes and flats. My dad was told his next piece of work would be in a flat building with multiple rooms and 3 levels. Homes and flats like these, when no one lives in them at the time, are called voids. The building is just empty rooms. When this happens, the council puts big heavy metal doors on the building to prevent thieves from getting in. You need a set of keys provided by the council. To get ahead of himself, my dad wanted to see the scale of work he would be undertaking rather than going there completely under-equipped and unprepared. So, my dad opens up and takes a look around. 4 rooms on the ground floor, same on the 2nd and 3rd, all connected by a staircase, which had a central shaft through the middle. You can see right to the ceiling on the 3rd floor. Stairs have metal bars for railings, a big job, but achievable in a few days. Gut the place out, replaster a few walls, and a repaint job. My dad goes to lock up, but he feels someone behind him. This, I am told, is not uncommon. Local people see builders go into empty buildings, and they want to see what they can take. So naturally, my dad turns around. "Mate, you're gonna have to leave. I'm locking up." But he said it to no one. No one was around him, or had been in the building. Thinking this just an odd sensation, he thought nothing else about it, locked up, and went home. My dad told my mom what happened, but it was more of a passing remark, like, "Oh, this happened today. Weird," and nothing else was said. Anyway, the weekend passes, and my dad and his friend Martin go back to the job on Monday and begin opening up and proceed with the work. A local resident walks up and asks them how things are going, to which they both agree. It's going well, and some other small talk. He changes the subject. "It's a shame what happened in there, isn't it?" Both my dad and his working friend were confused. "A shame? What's a shame?" "Poor girl came home from school a few months ago and saw her dad hanging, tied himself to the railing, and jumped." My dad, of course, was now scared and felt that familiar shiver go up him. He didn't tell the local guy what he had felt, but he told his friend. Martin refused to go in the building alone, and they both agreed that they would always leave the central door open to make sure there was an exit if needed. My dad would be the first to tell you he doesn't really believe in ghosts, and he would also say he has never seen a ghost, but he did say this was the oddest experience he has ever had, and still cannot explain it.